How Not to Diet, by Michael Greger, MD, FUSMA. Introduction. Hello, and welcome. I want you to think about the last time you tried a diet, the excitement of the first few days, the promises you made to yourself, and then, the slow, creeping return of old habits, the frustration, the guilt, that feeling that maybe you're just not cut out for this. There's a $50 billion industry in this country built on that exact feeling. An industry that relies on a single, heartbreaking foundation: your failure. It sells you a new book, a new program, a new pill, knowing that in 6 months, or a year, you'll be back for the next one. Well, I'm here to tell you something that might sound like a revolution. It's not your fault. Your failure isn't a lack of willpower. It's not a moral failing. You are not broken. You are, in fact, a finely tuned survival machine. The problem is, you've been put in an environment that is designed, from the ground up, to make you fail. What if there was a way to stop fighting against your body and start working with it? Some years ago, a physician named Michael Greger, the founder of nutritionfacts.org, set out to find an answer. His life's mission began as a child, when his own grandmother, at 65, was given a medical death sentence. She was told she had end-stage heart disease and had just weeks to live. She was sent home to die. But she didn't. She was wheeled into a clinic run by a lifestyle medicine pioneer, Nathan Pritikin, and put on a new diet. And a few weeks later, she walked out. She wasn't just better, she was cured. She went on to live another 31 years, long enough to see her grandson, Michael, graduate from medical school. That event lit a fire in him. He asked, if the cure to the #1 killer of men and women could be buried in the medical literature, what else might be buried there? So, he and his team dedicated themselves to a mammoth task: to dive into the 500,000 scientific papers published on the subject of obesity and find out what the evidence truly says. Not anecdotes, not opinions, just the facts. He didn't just find a new diet, he found a blueprint for how our bodies were designed to manage weight, and he discovered that the solution to permanent, healthy weight loss isn't about starvation, it's about abundance. My promise to you today is this: by the end of our time together, you will understand why your body has been struggling. You will see the invisible forces that have been working against you. And, most importantly, you will learn the evidence-based ingredients for building the last diet you will ever need. This isn't about how to diet. This is about how not to diet. Book summary. So, where does the journey begin? It begins by understanding the villain of our story. And the villain is not you. For millions of years, our bodies evolved in a world of scarcity. Our ancestors were foragers. Our biology was sculpted by a simple, brutal rule: survival of the fattest. Our brains became exquisitely sensitive to the rarest and most precious nutrient of all: calories. We developed an inborn, powerful drive to seek out foods with the highest calorie density. A sweet, ripe fruit was a jackpot. A handful of nuts was a treasure. Those who were best at finding these foods, and, crucially, storing their energy as body fat, were the ones who survived the lean times to pass on their genes. You haven't inherited a fat gene. You've inherited a survival gene. For 99.9% of human history, this system worked perfectly. And then, in the blink of an evolutionary eye, really just in the 1970s and 80s, everything changed. We didn't change. Our DNA is the same. The world changed. We were suddenly dropped into what Dr. Greger calls the toxic food environment. Suddenly, calories weren't scarce anymore. They were everywhere. And the food industry, driven by profits, learned to weaponize our ancient survival drives against us. They learned how to mass-produce, mass-market, and chemically engineer food-like products that hit all of our ancient bliss points at once. Dr. Greger gives these a simple name: CRAP, calorie-rich and processed foods. Think about it. We're programmed to crave sugar, fat, and salt. So, what did the industry do? They took plants, stripped them of their fiber and water, and concentrated them down into pure, hyper-palatable sugar, oil, and white flour. They created foods with a bliss point, activating the same reward pathways in our brains as addictive drugs. And then they spent billions of dollars on the most sophisticated marketing the world has ever seen to make sure we, and our children, would be hooked. This is the core problem. We are normal people reacting normally to an abnormal environment. The food industry, of course, has a different story. They'd like us to believe it's our own fault. They blame our lack of personal motivation or our lack of exercise. Dr. Greger dismantles this. When you look at the data, our collective physical activity levels haven't actually declined. If anything, they've gone up slightly. But our calorie intake has. This environment is the reason 71% of American adults are now overweight. And this epidemic of excess weight has led to an epidemic of disease. It's an alphabet of misery. A is for arthritis. B is for high blood pressure and back pain. C is for cancer. D is for diabetes. E is for encephalopathy. That's brain shrinkage. F is for fertility problems. G is for gallstones. H is for heart disease, our number one killer. So, what has been our medical response to this crisis? We've turned to solutions that attack the symptoms, not the cause. We've tried bariatric surgery, stapling, bypassing, or cutting out parts of our own healthy organs. These are major, high-risk operations, and they don't fix the underlying drive to overeat. They just make it physically painful to do so. And the complications can be severe, from lifelong nutrient deficiencies to, tragically, an increased risk of suicide. We've tried diet drugs, but the history of weight loss drugs is a graveyard of good intentions. Fen-phen was pulled for crippling heart valves. Meridia was pulled for causing heart attacks and strokes. The drug industry's business model is often based on repeat customers, and the side effects are sometimes just baked into the formula. And, of course, we've tried supplements. Billions are spent on fat burners and appetite suppressants. But this is an industry that's almost completely unregulated. When investigators have tested these pills, they've been found to be tainted with everything from illegal stimulants to unlisted laxatives and antidepressants. And the ones that aren't dangerous? They simply don't work. This is the great diet lie. We've been told to fight our bodies, to cut, drug, and starve them into submission. Dr. Greger offers a different path. A better one. Instead of asking which fad diet is best, he asked a different question. What are the ingredients of an ideal, permanent, healthy weight loss plan? What does the balance of evidence say really works? He found 17 of them. And when you look at them, a clear picture emerges. The first, and perhaps most important ingredient is calorie density. This is the key. The secret to sustainable weight loss is not about eating less food. It's about eating more food that just so happens to have fewer calories. Let me explain. Your stomach can comfortably hold about 4 cups of food. That's its size. It doesn't really know how many calories are in that food. It just knows when it's full. You could fill those 4 cups with strawberry ice cream. That would be about 2,000 calories, your entire day's worth, in one meal. Or, you could eat strawberries. To get those same 2,000 calories, you would have to eat 44 cups of strawberries. That's 11 full stomachs. It's physically impossible. You would be stuffed to the brim long before you even came close to overeating. This is the magic of foods with low calorie density. They are mostly water and fiber. Think of an apple versus apple juice. To get the 240 calories in a bottle of apple juice, you could chug it in less than a minute. But to get those same 240 calories from whole apples, you'd have to eat about 5 cups of apple slices. That would take you hours of chewing. Which one do you think would make you feel fuller? This is why the ideal weight loss diet is high in water-rich foods and high in fiber. This isn't about portion control. It's about changing the quality of the portions, so you can eat to your heart's content and still lose weight. But the magic of fiber goes even deeper. It's not just a bulking agent. The second key principle is what Dr. Greger calls walling off your calories. When you eat a whole plant food, like a bean, a kernel of corn, or an almond, its calories are physically trapped inside cell walls made of fiber. Your body can't just absorb them all at once. Think about eating a handful of whole almonds. No matter how well you chew, tiny fragments of nuts will make it all the way through your digestive system. carrying their fat calories with them, undigested, and out the other end. Studies show that when you eat whole almonds, you may only absorb about 70% of the calories listed on the label. But what happens when you eat almond butter? The industrial grinding has already obliterated those cell walls. All that fat is completely exposed. Your body absorbs almost every last drop. The same goes for whole grains. When you eat an intact whole grain, like steel-cut oats or brown rice, its starch is walled off. It's digested slowly. But when you grind it into flour, even 100% whole wheat flour, you've broken down that protective matrix. The starch is naked. It hits your bloodstream like a sugar rush. This is why whole wheat bread can have a glycemic index nearly as high as white bread, while whole wheat pasta, because its starch is so densely compacted, is much better. And intact whole grains are the best of all. This leads us to the engine room of weight control, your microbiome and your insulin response. All that fiber and starch that you don't digest, it's not waste, it's food. It's food for the trillions of good bacteria living in your gut. This is your forgotten organ. And when you feed them, they feed you back. They take that fiber and transform it into compounds called short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs. These magical little molecules get absorbed into your bloodstream, travel to your brain, and tell you you're full. They are the true satiety signal. When you eat a fiber-deficient, processed food diet, your good bacteria starve. And when they starve, you are always hungry. Your brain is literally waiting for the "I'm full" signal that never arrives. At the same time, this processed diet is spiking a different hormone, insulin. Insulin is your body's fat storage hormone. Its job is to take calories out of your blood and store them for later. And high insulin levels lock your fat cells shut, preventing you from burning your own fat. What spikes insulin? We all know sugar does. But here's the secret Dr. Greger uncovers in the data. Animal protein often spikes insulin just as much, or more, than pure sugar. In studies, beef or fish can cause a bigger insulin surge than high-sugar foods. Add tuna to mashed potatoes, and the insulin spike is 50% higher than eating the potatoes alone. Why? It may be due to the specific amino acids concentrated in animal proteins. This creates a perfect storm. You eat a meal of meat and refined carbs, say, a burger on a bun. The meat and the bun both spike your insulin, throwing your body into fat storage mode. Meanwhile, there's no fiber to feed your good bacteria, so your brain never gets the signal to stop eating. You store fat, and you still feel hungry. Do you see? It's not your fault. The system is rigged. So, Dr. Greger's blueprint for the optimal diet becomes clear. It must be low in calorie density and high in water and fiber so you can eat more food. Low in addictive, processed foods to break the bliss point cycle. Structurally intact walling off calories to slow digestion. Microbiome friendly to feed your good bacteria. Low on the insulin index to keep you in fat burning mode. And, of course, clean of pollutants and anti-inflammatory. What diet on earth checks every single one of these boxes? A whole food, plant-based diet. A diet centered on fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. That's beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils. This is the diet that, in clinical trials, produces the greatest weight loss, without counting calories or restricting portions. In the broad study, participants randomized to a whole food, plant-based diet lost an average of 27 pounds by 6 months. And they did it eating as much as they wanted. It was the greatest weight loss ever recorded in a trial of this kind. But Dr. Greger doesn't stop there. This is how not to diet, after all. He provides an entire toolbox of weight loss boosters, his 21 tweaks, to accelerate your results. And this is where the science gets truly fascinating. He uncovers a master switch in our cells called AMPK. Think of it as your fat controller. When it's off, you store fat. When it's on, you burn fat. How do you flip the switch? One of the most powerful ways is vinegar. The acetic acid in vinegar activates AMPK. In one remarkable Japanese study, just 2 tablespoons of vinegar a day, split between 2 meals, caused a significant drop in body fat. losing about 5 pounds in 3 months compared to placebo, with no other changes to their diet. Just 2 teaspoons of vinegar with each meal. He found other AMPK activators too. Spices. A quarter teaspoon of black cumin a day. A quarter teaspoon of garlic powder. A teaspoon of ground ginger. All have been shown in randomized, controlled trials to accelerate weight loss. He found natural fat blockers. When you eat dark green leafy vegetables, the microscopic, chlorophyll-filled membranes in the leaves, called thylakoids, physically bind to the fat-digesting enzymes in your gut. This delays fat absorption, which triggers your ileal brake, that deep satiety signal, and makes you feel fuller, longer. He found natural fat burners. We all have brown fat, or BAT, a type of fat that doesn't store energy, but burns it to create heat. How do you activate it? Mild cold exposure works, but so do the capsaicin compounds in chili peppers. He found the power of chronobiology, or meal timing. Remember that old saying, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper? It's true. In a landmark Israeli study, 2 groups of women were given the exact same number of calories per day. The group that ate their biggest meal at breakfast lost more than twice as much weight as the group that ate their biggest meal at dinner. Calories eaten in the morning are simply less fattening than the exact same calories eaten at night. And my personal favorite tweak, negative calorie preloading. If you eat a 100-calorie salad with your pasta, you just added 100 calories. But if you eat that same salad before your pasta, studies show you get so full from the salad that you end up eating over 200 fewer pasta calories. 100 calories in, 200 calories out. That salad just had negative 100 calories. The same goes for soup. And apples. Eating a whole apple before a meal was found to cut 300 calories from the meal. The apple itself only has about 100 calories. That's a negative 200-calorie apple. This is the entire philosophy. It's not about restriction, deprivation, or hunger. It's about being smart. It's about eating more food. It's about using science to fill your plate with foods that are anti-inflammatory, low in calorie density, high in fiber, and incredibly satiating. It's about adding things in, like pre-meal salads, vinegar, and spices, to accelerate your body's natural fat-burning processes. Commentary. So, what do we make of all this? After digging through this mountain of evidence, what is the one, simple lesson? For me, it's a message of profound relief and empowerment. For decades, we've been told a story that we are lazy, gluttonous, and weak-willed. We've been taught to see our bodies as adversaries, something to be tamed, tricked, and conquered. This book rewrites that story. It tells us that our bodies are not the enemy. They are our allies, brilliantly designed for survival, but struggling to navigate a world they were never built for. The solution, then, isn't to declare war on our bodies. It's to make peace with them. It's to stop feeding the toxic environment and start feeding the miraculous biology within us. It's not about restriction. It's about abundance. It's not about what you can't eat. It's about all the amazing, delicious, and deeply satisfying foods you can. This isn't about a 30-day challenge. It's about finding a way of eating that you can not only live with, but love, for the rest of your long, healthy life. If you're feeling overwhelmed by all this information, just start small. You don't have to do everything at once. Try 1 or 2 simple, practical actions this week. 1. Start with a negative calorie preload. Before your biggest meal of the day, eat an apple, or a simple salad with a vinegar dressing, or a cup of vegetable soup. That's it. See how it makes you feel too. Try a flavor tweak. Add 2 teaspoons of vinegar to your lunch and dinner. Sprinkle a quarter teaspoon of black cumin on your food. It's a tiny change that could have a real impact. Shift your timing. Just try to make breakfast or lunch your largest meal of the day. And try to stop eating after 7 p.m. This journey isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about building small, simple habits that become second nature. This is how you stop dieting and just start living. Now, we have explored an incredible amount of science today. But I'll be honest with you, a summary, even a long one, is like looking at a travel brochure. The real journey, the real transformation, happens when you visit the place yourself. This book, How Not to Diet, is packed with thousands of scientific citations and hundreds of practical insights we just couldn't get to. If anything we've talked about today has sparked a light, if you felt a sense of aha, that's why, then I'd truly encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself and the food you eat, forever. And of course, if this journey today has brought you some value, please take a moment to subscribe. We have so many more incredible books to explore together, so many more lessons to learn. Let's keep learning, and let's keep growing. Thank you for listening.